What's going on, guys? BladeZilla here, and I've got an extremely special one for you today from Shirogorov. This is one that I had to fight to get, and we got one. So this is the latest CDX custom division knife. There's only a handful of these currently floating around out of a series of 100 instead of 50 on a custom division knife. And this is literally the first time I have opened it, looked at it, haven't even flicked the knife yet, so we're going to be experiencing this together for the first time. I've got some custom divisions pulled out, and we're going to do a nice little comparison on some models here, and talk about what I feel will be probably the most highly collectible custom division knife probably ever made, I would think, or will be. You know, talking around so far, it has been nothing but terrific feedback on this knife, and the collectors are frothing because it's based on, hint hint, the F7, which are almost impossible to get as a custom knife. And we'll talk more about that, what an F7 knife kind of goes for, and the configurations, etc. But this is an absolute home run, and I think these are going to be very difficult to get, even though that there's 100 versus 50. So let's start there. I guess as a reminder, check out my site, BladeZilla.ca, where a lot of the knives featured on this channel are available for sale in Canada, ready to ship. There's the site now, a bunch of custom division knives. Some of those we might see today, we'll see. I just threw up Quantum Blue, a bunch of cool stuff, some CKFs, some stitches, whatnot. There you go, BladeZilla.ca. Figured I'd do the shout out, why not? Okay, the question will be this one. Will this ever make the site? Or will this be in my pocket in my funeral suit? We don't know. Okay, let's open it. Oh, good God. That has some serious special action. It's like a throwback, like right away. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit here. The action on this feels a lot like Quantum Blue. It's just a heavier blade, and you notice it right away. It's a 4mm blade. I don't know if you can see that. S90V, I think it's written up there. There we go. Like I said, I'm going through this together with you. It might be a longer video today. And I don't really apologize for that, because it's just going to be a real cool knife to kind of look at the details, discover some things together, and kind of go from there. So I guess let's start on the front. So the F7, which is essentially a chubby, fat F95 design with skeletonized handles throughout, and then they added the skeletonized blade on here, which is just incredible. You know, this may be, it's definitely one of the few knives from Shirogorov that has that blade cutout in it, and it just looks so good in conjunction with the rest of the knife, the profile, the milling. Oh my God, there's so much to talk about in this knife. I don't even know where to begin, honestly, but you know, we'll try. We'll try with the handle first. I want to see something here. Oh, just look through the handle. How good that looks. There's no narrowing of any of the channels. That looks so good. Let's flip it and take a look on the other side here. Oh, it's even better on this side. My worry when I initially saw this, I thought CDX was going to look a little ridiculous, and I thought it was really big and a bit of an eyesore, and it is not at all. It's actually very subtle, and even if I took macro photos, which I will, of this knife, you know, I guess you could make it really highlight and stand out and pop, but it's actually quite subtle. The knife itself has a lot more blue in the handle than I was expecting as well. I thought it was a bit of a plain tie color, and there's definitely a nice little anodized, very, very light coloring, kind of put into this, as you can see. The detail throughout is, you know, it's an F7, right? So it's, like I said earlier, chunky F95, chunky being typically a nice full width backspacer, which just looks incredible as well. Oh, and the Shiro bear is on the tip there. That's a throwback and looks amazing. Wow. You know, I intentionally, you know, I have a couple friends who have been able to grab one, and I've sort of intentionally not asked about the knife, other than, hey, how's the initial feedback? Oh, I love it, and you'll never retrieve it off me, ever. And it's like, okay, that's cool. But I haven't really dug too much into the knife itself because I really didn't want to. I didn't want to ruin my first impressions with it, and so that's what makes this video and this knife so special to me right now. So let's look at the milling on the handle here. So we've got micro milling on the pivot, which is just so well done. Horizontal milling. Remember, this sits on a cap, so it doesn't spin. When we fall down from that, in here we've got micro milling all surrounding it, and it looks like it's in a radial pattern, kind of in line with that first lower sweep on the handle. And I don't know how well the camera's going to pick up that milling. It's so small. That's what she said, that it's going to be difficult to kind of see, but hopefully with the lighting you should see some milling around the pivot. That's what I'm trying to focus on here. The not only that, the cutout, as you can see, you're seeing multiple layers of depth to the cutout, including the top portion above my fingernail here. There's the milling continues in the radial pattern above that, and it kind of separates out, and it's just giving me detail. I don't, oh my gosh, it's incredible. And then not only that, you've got the cutout for the milling, then you've got a second layer of cutting out, and then almost like a third right down here. We move back, we've got, I'd say, like the same milling width that we see on a lot of the Stellars on this part of the handle, that same kind of bit size, I'd say. But we've got, oh man, all kinds of multi-direction and rotating. That looks so good. We've got some concavity here, some beveling here. Just a pleasure in your hand. And then up top, we've got a milling pattern that starts, this is interesting, that starts is kind of directional and turns into a radial. I don't think I've seen that before. Without missing a beat, without changing anything, they just completely went up, 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 and then started to do the radial that kind of is wrapped around the pivot. And then bevels on top. Wow. It just keeps going the more I look at this. Like, this is crazy. And then here we've got the 3 steps as well. So the base, the window, the layering, and then the wrap. Same on the back. Little baby window there that kind of reminds me of like the window you'd look at the car door behind or in front of the mirror, so you can see a head. That's kind of what that is to me. But once again, the stepped milling up top. No Shirogorov logo whatsoever on this side. That's interesting. Let's rotate it around the other side so we can see. So the same pattern on the top, which as you'd expect, right? You've got the same detail. I think, yep, looks like it's a mirror image on this side of all those window holes. Beautiful. We've got the pivot, which has a bunch more micro milling, which is just done at a level that you can almost not even tell there's milling lines. It's so smooth. And then, oh boy, the beauty. The hole that I talked about, the mirror, the little tiny hole there, that goes through the clip, I think. Let's take a look. No, it doesn't. Oh, geez. I was expecting a little peep right there, but I guess not. I wonder why they didn't do that. Probably because they're in different spots, just saying. So there's my first error, I guess. But I wonder why they put that there then. Other than you're just continuing the pattern. But that would have been a real cool touch to somehow line that up. But, you know, looking at it now, this is a lot higher. That would be like up here, where the clip isn't. So, I get it. But you are continuing that same exact profile in the patterning. It's interesting how they actually, that's a pretty big Shirogorov bit. That's not the smallest one. It's kind of their medium, and then the large. It's interesting how they didn't mount that internally. But I guess given kind of the clunky, there's some, not clunky, but some of the bigger window vibes, the big kind of robustness of it, I could see how that doesn't really matter. But it would have been cool to see that mounted internally. The lock bar is raised, as it should be. And what I'm saying there is when it's raised, it's just sticking up just a hair to easily access it. And then once again, milling throughout here is just at a different level. Just at a completely different level. All the beveling, all the, like I said, concave shapes and forms, and like there's just so much to discuss. I'll be looping in a circle. Flipping it around top here, we've got the flipper tab beveling that we've kind of come to know with F95s, right? Where it's just nice and smooth for where you flick the knife when you open the flipper. Real nice and smooth. And then the beveling up top, the rounded edges, the seams between the back spacer and the rest of the knife are just gorgeous. You've got a nice blue anode. I'm guessing that's tie as well. It just looks so, I love the thick gearing on there. That is just a complete throwback to some of the older designs. You know, it's a 10-year, I guess the history of the CDX is CD10, being that it's 10 years since their first CD, custom division knife. And that's why they say, hey, let's make an F95. Let's not only do it, let's do the F7, which is arguably their most popular custom in existence, which, you know, I'm filming this in 2024 in June, and that knife now, you know, they're in the 30 to 50, 60, sometimes 70,000 range. There's not many of them. They tend to be high-end materials, S110, S125, and you know, they don't come up for sale, and those have gone up exponentially in price. You know, I remember even a few years ago you could find them for 15 grand. And now, you know, I remember they popped 20, 25, 30, and then all these customs are starting to go for 40, 45, 46, 48. You're just going, is there an end in sight on these knives? And then they drop this thing, and an F7 custom division knife with the cutout on the blade in S90V. You can reverse flick it. I'm not going to even attempt this, but I'm assuming if you wanted to, you could thumb flick it, you could reverse flick it, no problem. Very good window setup for that, and it's sharp actually there. You've got polished satin flats on the knife here. The jimping, let's see, oh god. Is there anything wrong with this knife? Like, the jimping's perfect. The blade shape, incredible. You've got the swedging that just looks gorgeous. Angle to angle, and is that finish on the top different than the flats? I think it might be. I think we've got the same finish on the top as we do on the flats here. My hands are getting moister than an oyster just looking at this. Oh my gosh. The cutout is just gorgeous, and then inside it's actually finished just a bit differently. We've got a mirror polished edge. I don't know if the camera's going to freak out and set its retina off, but we've got mirror polished edge, and the little nose for strength tapers out in the diamond kind of pattern that we're used to. Oh god. Size wise, let's get some sizes here going. So we've got the 111, you've probably seen this on the channel, the 111 Starship. I've done a video on this knife, absolute gorgeous one. And this guy, I can't remember, oh, this is MagnaCut, but one of their newer knives, which is a big boy, big boy. We've got an F95 custom division, which is an NL in Vanex. You would have seen this on the channel about maybe a couple months ago. They've been around, but it's a new knife. Also custom division. We've got the Astrum custom division as well. I've done a video on that. And what's the one thing that's missing here, guys? If we're looking at these knives, what's missing on the CDX? Well, we're missing a custom division logo. Wonder why. Do you think that would have looked out of place? I don't know, because like if you look at the 111 up top, they've got a custom division logo, but they pulled it down under the cutout on the blade. Whereas under the Astrum and the F95 NL, you can see they've moved the CD logo up on the blade itself to kind of make it look a little more balanced. So if we go start at the Astrum, right, custom division logo up a little bit higher. Beautiful knife. MagnaCut, I believe, on this one as well. I didn't even look. MagnaCut. There's so many knives. I've like lost count in terms of what's what anymore. For a second there on the Starship, I was like, is the Starship 110? But Astrum custom division, beautiful knife, absolutely beautiful. In my books, I always thought this knife would be less desirable than the Sprint Run, but I'm starting to think it might be more, just based on the anodizing alone. Kind of gives me, you know, heavy teal vibes, and it's like a teal ice color with, you know, the stepped milling. Same thing right around. I called that the bear claw, if you remember. Beautiful knife. F95 NL custom division knife. We at Blade Show, I had heard that Sergey's favorite on the table, and he had all these knives there. His was the F95 NL, and rightfully so. Super slim, in line with kind of the magnetic Vanex blade, and then the beautiful inlays of that carbo tie just look like next level. And then throwback to kind of solid, you know, more standard colors, right? Kind of that dark rano, but very thin. That's the takeaway here on the new knives. They tend to be a lot thinner and not as chubby, but at the same time, like, thin is in because tolerances are harder to do when you're thin. So when you can do it, they tend to do it. So the blade, the pinch up top, the back spacer, just everything about it, just very well done. And I'll go back to the Astrum once again here to show you the blade stock as well. Just super thin. I think it's 3 mils. The pinch, everything on it, just really tight. And then we go to this guy, and I'm going to move this just up so I don't drop anything. It's a heavy knife. I did a video on this one. So the Starship, you know, very similar technology-wise. And if we look, I believe this was the last knife to launch before the F7, or the, F7, whatever, the CDX. So you're seeing a lot of similarities in the shape. You're kind of going back to the thicker blade stock as well. You're going away from the super tight tolerances, but once again, exceptional blade centering in MagnaCut, which is kind of cool. But you know, you're seeing the clip attached internally, which is kind of like interesting. It's a different knife and a different style. Keep that in mind, right? It's a liner lock. It's not a frame lock, so okay. But you get the cutout on the blade, which is like super desirable, and then the skeletonized flipper, which is super desirable. And I wanted to look at this again, and yes, this also had the satin flats on the blade, and then kind of the delicate stonewash, but then once again back to that, I think, the stonewash on the chamfers there. Interesting. Beautiful knife. Some of the best action as well is on the 111 knives because it's just so big. That's what she said, and so much weight to the swing of it. You can almost not have anything but incredible action when it's tuned correctly. So those are the three that I wanted to show. If we wanted to do kind of some other knives that compare size-wise, we can certainly do that. We have the normal, you know, Stellar as well. We have the Cami, I guess we could do. Kami, whatever you want to call it. Which are basically the same size, right? Very similar. Where's my neon? I've got a neon here. Here's a neon 0 to show size-wise, right? Quite a bit different between the two. You know what? I've got my old F95 NL2 here, which is a bit of a throwback, right? Size-wise, and as well as technology-wise, to kind of see what's changed over these last little while. And like I said, it's, you know, this is an F95 NL CD. I think there's only 30. But, you know, just a throwback to like the old style, like thick handles, right? Thick blade stock. And if we look at how thick the blade stock is here, we're pretty darn close. We might even be the same width. Can you guys tell? Just look at the center of the blade in the knife. That's typically the easiest way to measure it, but it wouldn't shock me if it's 4 mil on the F95 NL, maybe slightly more, but just a very heavy, this one, sorry, the F95 NL, very heavy knife for its size. And at the time when they launched that knife, it was state-of-the-art, incredible milling work, you know, aerospace grade tolerances, and just highly tuned roller bearings. Incredible. And now that's the standard. Oh my god. This has to be one of the best custom division knives that has ever been made. This has to be. It's just tuned so nice. The tolerances are ridiculous. And that Shiro bear is the icing on the cake. Like, look how tight this knife is to that backspacer. Like, that is the money shot. It is so close. You would never see that on the old custom division knives. You just never would. The milling is incredibly tight all over the map. The anodizing is through the roof good. The clip is just a different clip from what I remember. And oh my gosh, I didn't even see this the first time because I didn't rotate it. Look at the milling on the clip on the other side on the top here. Not just the little windows. As the clip rolls around, it's all milled. I don't even know if I can show this. This whole curve and all the way around, it's all milled. Wow. Unbelievable. I really thought the CDX would be something I wasn't going to like. The logo on there, and I just love that it's in the same font as the CD logo, right? Because you got to put it somewhere. You know, we've got no logo on the blade, so they put it on the handle, which is so cool. And then they hide that S90V, like on the newer knives, on some of the old turtles and stuff. They just plunk it in there, which is like, I swear they're watching the channel, because that's exactly what I said. I said, you know what? Put it there. I love it there, and I love the Shirogorov bear somewhere on the handle. Like that's me. I love it. And if you would ask me, you know, design me a custom division knife, I'd say that. I'd say I want simple tie, milled like crazy, with cool intricate designs with a modern touch. Check. I want the cutout on the blade to reverse flick. I don't want Magna Cut. Don't give me that. Give me like S90V minimum. They did that. Give me roller bearings. Yep. I don't know what this knife is even missing. Like when we're talking about these little like windows, oh, they don't line up, big deal, right? I don't know what they would have done. And I'm going to grab a light and shine it inside, because even on the inside of this thing, it's so skeletonized. It's like, it's just so, like, everything's taken out of it. I'll weigh it after, but it weighs nothing. We've got underneath CD written on underneath the backspacer on the inside of it. I don't know if you can see that. CD 2402-06 is this one. And then it's all milled out along the walls, underneath the backspacer. Oh, God. That is incredible. Like, this knife looks like... It just looks like it's just done so well. And I would love to see this thing opened up, which I won't do, but I would love to see what this thing looks like opened up. We do have a metal lock bar insert as well. I'm shocked that they didn't put a custom division bit anywhere on this. Reverse bit. So, you know, you buy this knife, you can open it with a standard Shirogorov pen. I'm blown away by that, which just adds to the allure. Roller bearings, which are, you know, if we talked about, you know, if you're looking at this video, I'm assuming you know Shirogorovs. But roller bearings are think of them, they're needle bearings, so they're hot dogs in like the rays of a sun in a track, right? More surface area. It's not to provide anything more than, you know, contact point surface area benefits, but it just creates some of the best action you're ever going to experience, known to man. Oh, God. It almost feels like a little 111. That's my take on it. It feels like a little 111, but it's an F95. It's thicker, heavier blade, milled out like crazy. I want to see the balance here. Balance right behind the center of the pivot. Perfect balance. Oh, God. I feel like every now and then a knife comes through that I just did not expect and didn't realize that I was completely missing from my own collection. And I go, you know what? I've had some special ones. I've had mini Quantums come through, both the Custom Division and the Sprint Run. Both of them were phenomenal knives. Cool beyond belief. I've had both, you know, Astrum Custom Division, Sprint Runs, number of F95s, Magnetics, Hatties, bunch of 111s, Neons, Hattions, F5s, like you name it. This may be the coolest of all of those. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, this may be the one. And I remember when Astrum came through, they stepped up the milling specifically at a whole different level. And once again, just looking at Astrum, it's ridiculous. I'm just going to move that out of the way. The milling on this knife is just sensational. And it's at a level that I didn't know Shirogorov could do. And this was essentially, right, a mix between like a Neon and a 110. From my perspective, anyway. And the, you know, the thick jumps down. The design was just so state-of-the-art. And then you start asking around, and people, they talk about it, and you know, they're like, oh, it's a lot thinner than and longer than I was expecting, and it's just a different slicier knife. It's a different design. The F95 is Shirogorov's Sebenza. This is their 10-year design. They recently released, I think a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I can't remember when. Do you guys remember the big 10-year anniversary F95 that just had that thrown up on top of the handle or something, or the blade? I can't remember. But this is their Sebenza. And you, as soon as you put it in your hand, you go, I can understand why people EDC a 4-inch blade, because of just how good it fits and feels in your hand. It's ridiculous. It's done at a level that, you know, even in today's day and age, a lot of companies cannot do. And Shirogorov's doing it on equipment and machinery that is very within the reach. You know, I watched some YouTube videos on some of their stuff, and I had it translated to English, and their equipment is, like, not new, some of it. They're just doing it really well with high-end skill, hand grinding. And they're good QC, and maybe that's why they're only doing 50 custom divisions. The question that I have, when we go from an F95 CD they're making 50 of, and an Astrum and a 111, and into this new F7 or CDX, you know, is the 100 level custom division, is that going to be a thing? Are they switching to that? Or is this a one-off? Because if it's a one-off, it's going to be easier to get these, I think, because there's double the amount. However, that being said, everyone I've talked to about this knife is saying I will sell everything in my collection prior to this knife, because it is that good. And I didn't really get it, because, you know, you look at it and go, yeah, okay, like, yeah, I like the windowing. I love the F7. I've never had a true F7. I've never experienced one. But, you know, there's still going to be 100 of them. Are they going to be that collectible? I don't see people getting rid of them. I really don't. I think this is going to take grip in a lot of people's personal collections, and they're gone. And yeah, they're only doing 100. Well, I think they're, you know, there's one less now that's going to be available. You know, you talk to a few of my friends. There's, I think, 5 or 10 of these out there right now. They're not going anywhere. And I get it. It's just the combination of the old school F95, you know, layout, the chubbier blade, the feel, the fit and finish, all the modern features and creature comforts. It fits so well. The big rounding on the handle, the concavity to the milling. It's just, it's a 10 out of 10. And I'm not trying to make a pun. I know I like to run my mouth and make silly jokes on the channel about that's what she said and whatever and whatever. It's just like, this is a 10 out of 10, and I know it's named CDX for 10. This is the gold standard in a 10 out of 10 for me, because it's not leaving anything that I would change about it. It's truly not. And you know, every custom division knife is fit and finish and design are at levels that you just don't experience every day. And now it's like, how did you guys take a classic design, a super classic design that's so rare to get, and you gave it the modern fit and finish with modern super steel, and you put roller bearings on it, and you did a cutout on it, on the blade, and you gave it the best action that I've ever seen? I shouldn't say, well, that F95, which is old, still has some of the best action. And I think it's just because it's worn in, and the blade's heavy, and it's snappy. But if that's what this blade is going to kind of turn into, like, that's what this is going to be. Detent, beautiful. I really want to reverse flick this, but I can't because my hand is wrapped funky around a tripod. If you guys know when I film this, I'm literally hugging a tripod with both hands, and I can't really contour to do it. Lanyard hole as well with that Shiro Bear. It's just so good. And from the side, there's no hole in the knife like there is on the Stellar, but it just pops out just a little bit. If we're looking at that lanyard hole, it just pokes just a little bit out, but all your eye just catches all this milling as you kind of make your way down to it. Then it catches this more coarse milling. And then you've got that blue ano that's on there that just looks so good. The clips attached with that kind of cool design. And then you add in the rolled milling that's just, I don't know how the hell they did that. This is the coolest part. It's like a rounded mill. Oh, God. The CDX, love it. Absolutely love it. The lock bar internally, that's interesting. That's a throwback I didn't even notice. You kind of have a little bit of both on this lock bar. A bend on a little, because it's milled out on the inside, and it's on the outside as well. Interesting. I wonder how they did that. It just kind of gives me like just the vibe of it. It really has some Silk Slim kind of vibe to that lock bar too. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's hard. Like I said, I'm experiencing this knife myself for the first time. And this is, to me, the coolest part about making these particular videos is, you know, you guys should know by now, I'm a Shirogorov slutty whore. I love Shirogorovs. They are my favorite brand by a mile. And, sorry, the text message there. And when I get a new knife that I'm able to showcase on the channel for the first time, I just go like, that is just makes me so giddy and feel so young again and so happy, because it's just such a cool experience to be able to film and put online and, you know, enjoy with other enthusiasts that are, you know, either in the market for, you know, a CDX, or maybe in the market for one, or just discovering Shirogorov as a brand for the first time. You know, either they've made so many different knives and so many different variants, and it's just so fun to still get these new releases that are just, they just remind you why you fell in love with the brand in the first place. And that to me is the most special part of these. And then, you know, if you've ever kind of got like something really cool in a collection that, you know, signifies something special to you, that's what this knife would be. You know, it's like a celebratory piece. That's what custom division often means to a lot of people. And I joked years ago, or not years ago, last year I think I said, CD, does it mean cash deprived? Well, I think it's starting to mean that because of how valuable these knives have become. The secret is out. People know the brand, they know that they're highly collectible, and they tend to kind of only go one way in price, and that's up. So how does Shirogorov fix that? Well, maybe this is kind of like a stock split. It's saying, hey, let's make 100 of these, which is in line with a special edition, which we've already seen what that market does. It too goes up and up and up. But they haven't done a special edition of an F7, which is what this knife is. Oh man. The jimping on this, absolutely perfect. Anyway, I digress. Let's get a scale out and let's get a weight on this and see what, I didn't even read or look at a spec sheet prior to doing this video. But figured, you know, when you get a genuine first experience with a knife, it's probably better than reading a spec sheet and saying, oh, this is what they designed. And then that way I also technically tend to miss some things as well. which is kind of cool to see how important some of that stuff might be. Oh, it's low 4s too. Come on. 4.2 ounces. And for my Canadian brethren, 119 grams. 4.2 ounce knife. Wow. I'm sorry, this knife, it just keeps getting better and better. So you're essentially at the weight ratio, blade inch, blade length to ounce, right? So if it's 4-inch blade, you want it to weigh 4 ounces, 3.5, 3.5, etc. So you're basically at that magic number. And I haven't even done a measurement. This is what's crazy. I usually do this within the first 2 minutes of every single video. And for some reason today, I haven't even done it. So let me grab my measuring tape and we'll go do this right now. All right, what do we got here? Should be a 95, but anyway, so what did I say was 4.2 ounces, and we are coming in at a blade length of about 4 inches right to the grind edge. And 4 7/8 on the handle roughly. And overall, 8 3/4, 8 5/8, somewhere in there, depending on how your eyes work, but there you go. So that is my magic. Let's measure it at the end of the video because I was too excited to even do it at the start. I pulled this out of the box and I was so excited to just flip the knife. I couldn't even wait to talk about it. And you know what? Here we are, probably, 30, 35 minutes in. I haven't even mentioned that the skeletonization of the handles, you can see the blade. But not only that, you can see the angling of the blade inside. And I think that is just so frickin' cool. Like a macro shot in there would just look so great. And, it's been a while since I've been this excited for one knife. It's really one of those that I'll remember, because like, where were you when you first checked out a CDX? Because it is everything that the people are saying about it online, and it's a very tight-knit community, and obviously there's some guys like myself who are Shirogorov whores, and will tell you it's the best thing since sliced bread. I try to refrain when it's not, and I try to tell you, and I'm certain this will go down as one of the nicest knives that I've experienced from Shirogorov, and that is in no way, shape, or form a shot at any of the other custom divisions, customs, sprint run knives, production knives I've experienced, because they truly are on a whole other level. And sometimes it takes a knife like this to really truly show you both when they combine excellent design with modern day fit and finish. I just didn't know they could do this level. So the question is this: if I'm Shiro and I'm sitting on the forefront of an absolute home run in design, this knife is going to be widely accepted, I think, as one of the best custom divisions ever made. Do they take this formula and duplicate it with another piece, like the Antique? A knife that arguably is probably one of the hardest knives to get. I've been trying to get one myself for a year now, and I cannot get one. And obviously my standards are quite high when it comes to collector's pieces. I don't want a user, and I want mint, unsharpened, etc. And I cannot find one. So my question is this: when you have an F7 design that was, $30, $40, $50, $60, $70,000 for a custom, and now you pump it into the custom division territory at 100, and it goes gangbusters in terms of how popular and how tough they are going to be to find, do you take that formula and apply it to other areas of the business, like the Antique, And I'm using the antique as my personal one that I cannot find, which I'd love to, because thick blade stock, crazy good milling, combined with roller bearings, and highly desirable, you know, that's what I'm after. You know, I think this knife will be no different. And I can't say this enough, the 4mm blade, they didn't have to do that, but they did it. And it changes the knife completely. Because if this was a 3mm F95, like the F95 NL, it would be a different design. Sure, you could make it identical to an F95 dimensionally, NL, but it would be a completely different knife. I'm so glad they went big, thick, burly, etc. I'm so glad. An absolute incredible piece. And one that I'm going to remember. This was quite an experience to go through together, and to flip a brand new design, a new knife, unbiased. Oh man, how did they do that? So, things I would improve on if I were to make version 2.0 of this, which they won't do because they don't care about me. Make it less expensive. Oh, you can't do that? Okay. So that concludes the negatives list of things I would change. Now, the positives list, I would probably say, you know what, if you've watched now for 40 minutes, that would probably be a good indicator that there's a lot of positives about the design and the knife, and that there isn't anything I'd change. It's perfect the way it is. It has all the modern creature comforts and fit and finish. It's plain tie with a little blue to it. Got a nice blue back spacer that looks so good. The clip, you know, maybe mount that internally. That might be cool. But given that it's all open, maybe they don't do that for a reason. I don't know what the reason is. Somebody will say it in the comments. The skeletonization of the handles is just a throwback. And it looks so good, and it's so well done. You've got a metal lock bar insert. I didn't even mention that. You know, it's so lightly engaged too, which is so gorgeous. Just the tolerances, everything's so good. I don't have a negative. I truly don't, and I try to have negatives. You know what? It's I guess negative is I put fingerprints on it because my hands are getting sweaty holding it, because my heart is racing. And I think I'm in love. But I don't know where to put a ring on it. It's a shame. Because when you go to buy your ring for this one, you may not have any money, because these are going to be going very expensive very quickly. And probably staying there and going up and up and up. I don't see these going... Right now, I've heard secondaries about 7,000 US. I've heard them going as high as 8. And you know what? 7 to 8 is probably where they're going to go. It would not shock me, because you've got super steel, you've got F7 design, double row roller bearing, or sorry, single row roller bearings, pardon my French, captive pivot, flipper. It's just a great knife. Absolute great knife. Oh, I digress. Alright guys, well I think I'm going to cut it off there. I've done the weigh-in, I've done some comparisons to some other custom division knives. I've talked about it and rambled, told you ridiculous stories, comparisons that make no sense, and puns that aren't funny. So I think that's my cue to exit with the CDX Custom Vision pen. And one of my all-time favorites. I don't know how it gets any better than this. And if they do, I'll be sure to tell you. But it's everything I wanted in a custom division and more, and done so much better than I was ever anticipating that this one would be done. So appreciate you giving me time. I know I rambled on today for longer than normal, and I apologize, but I appreciate you taking the time to have a coffee or a beer or a pop or a soda or whatever, a glass of coconut water with me, and getting to know each other and experience this together means a lot. It really does. Leave a comment below, throw a like on the video, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, but go to the store, BladeZilla.ca, where hopefully, as the months and weeks go on, hopefully I'll get more of these and be able to put some up on the site, because if I can even get any more of these, they're going to be tough. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Have yourself a great week, or what's left of it, and we'll talk soon, okay? Peace.